What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to Master Crafted. This week we are bringing a Victory Voxcast, and we are bringing our boy Matthew back from Strategic Reserve to tell us all about his win at the Wyohammer RTT this last weekend. And we're going to hear all about it, all about his games, what he's bringing, and, just how right we are about bringing trash. We just had a video about it. He apparently took it to heart, and he really is just mopping up with a lot of trash. So, Phil, what else are we expecting in today's episode?
It's an important thing, and I think hopefully all of you watching can learn something from Matt when we go through his list and kind of talk about tactically what we're looking to do here, is that no matter what you take, right, if you have a good understanding of your army, if you have good goals in mind for what you want your units to do and execute on, and you have a plan going into games, it will lead you to being a lot more effective. You are going to look at Matt's list and be like, what's going on here? Everything in here is
pretty
bad.
Much.
Where are the predators? Where are the knights? Where are the brigands? Where are the carnivores? There is nothing in here. Where are the 10-man units of plague marines? Where are the Death Shroud terminators? Each one of those, you're like, well, I could use more of this. I want more of the better units. But hopefully after this, you kind of get to an understanding that if you can develop a plan and you have a good idea of what your army can do and execute on those things, you can be effective on the tabletop. But it takes practice, it takes reps, and it takes a good level of strategic sense. So Matt, take it away. Why don't you just give us a talk through of your list? I'm going to share it here so people can kind of watch as we talk through it.
Sure. So we were expecting a balanced data slate last week, so the lists weren't due till Thursday night. And I actually kind of built this list last minute on Thursday. I was kind of like, let's try something just buck wild. I normally run like 3 labor scrawlers, more defensive approach. But here we go. It's nutty, but it actually worked really well. So starting from the top here, I got a Biologist Putrefier. He's the 5-up lethal free grenade guy. Foul Blight Spawn. That guy gives fights first as a nasty flamer. A Lord of Contagion. Don't see this one that much. He's a beat stick character, a lot of damage 3, gives the unit full hit rerolls for Terminators. I have a Plague Caster. I don't leave home without him. He's got a nasty flamer like a Red-Landed Redeemer flamer. And also a little tricky thing he has is he can make a target -1 to wound in the fight phase for a whole turn. So you can imagine if you hit like a strength 6 target with that and they're going into your vehicles, they're wounding on 6s. It's pretty nice. I got Big Man Mortarion. I decided recently that when I play Chaos, I'm not leaving Primarchs at home. They're just too cool. And then I have Typhus. He's a staple on almost every list. Does mortals, beat stick character. I have 3 5-man Plague Marines. They all have their own specific roles. One has Flamers to go with the Plague Caster. One has a Melt-A-Gun to go with the Putrefier. And then I have one that's just all melee weapons. So they all have heavy Plague weapons like you'd see in every Plague Marine list, but the melee unit just has Bubotic weapons too, which is like a bunch of 4 attacks at strength 5, AP 2, damage 1. That's just a little 5-man unit to hold ground fights first. It's enough to deter things. I have 2 Rhinos for those guys to go into. If I have a banner mission, I can start 1 5-man on my home objective, and if I go second, I can get that extra point, then hop in the Rhino and go on my turn, which is kind of nice. I've never ran a Hellbrute in all of 10th edition, so we gave it a go. The Flamer and Heavy Bolter, just to get extra shots. That actually was a pretty fun tech piece. We'll talk about that later on. I have 2 3-man Death Shrouds. Death Shrouds are staples of Death Guard, very tough Terminators, very powerful. I have 3 Bloat Drones, and I actually took a WYSIWYG, so I have a melee one, a long-range launcher one, and a flamer one. Then I have 3 Blight Haulers, which are anti-tank, multi-missile, +1 wounding against vehicles, and I did 10 Poxwalkers to hold my home. Altogether, there's 21 units in this list, which is a lot for a Marine army. So that's the list. I kind of constructed it to be a list I can do maximum pressure. I can every turn send trash, send units at my opponent, flip objectives, charge things, just be annoying. And when I learned throughout 3 games against all very good players, all of them went 2-1 at the end of the tournament too, that the pressure, I was able to sustain pressure for all 5 turns of the game, and it was too much. So it was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is impressive, bringing a Marine army with definitely more units than I take, even as a guard player. So that is quite a bit of pieces to play with for sure.
Yeah, the thing that struck out to me, and you talk about building pressure. Let's start with that, because I think that's probably going to be a question that a lot of people have is like, what do you mean? Like, they may not understand what you mean by building pressure, and then probably get into a little bit of an explanation of that, and then how your waves work in terms of what units are you pushing out there first with, and then second, and then third. How are you maintaining that pressure throughout a game?
Sure. So when I'm thinking of building pressure, with that many units, you can build intense board control. Especially if I go first, it's like everything in my army advances, and now the board's mine. When you're playing against we'll talk about one of the battle reps later. I was playing against Bridgehead. I had so many units, he could not drop anywhere he wanted to, even with 6-inch deep strike. He couldn't get to anything valuable, like he could drop and kill a little 90-point drone. And then I was able to attack the natural. So by pressure, I stage all my pieces. And also, there's a lot of variables to it. Depends on like what opponent you're facing, what kind of units they have, how fast they are, if they're melee oriented, whatever. But I have so many different types of units that I can decide mid-game or start the game where I want them to go. So I always want to have stuff threatening their opponent's natural. If I'm just flipping it or tagging it, killing people there, I want to make sure that the middle is never theirs for a turn. And a lot of times from the middle point, we were playing layout 1. So I could launch Morty, I could launch the Hellbrood, I could launch units and Terminators across and start attacking their own home. So by pressure, what I mean is not just like throwing everything in their face, but it's just like, okay, this turn you deal with a melee drone and a Hellbrute. Okay, you got to deal with that. Next turn, you got to deal with a Light Hauler and another drone. Next turn, you got to deal with Morty. And once you have to deal with Morty didn't die in any of the games, actually. It was like when I decided to send him, it was like, deal with it, you know? I'm also hitting you with Morty down the middle, and every part of the board is being attacked at once, kind of thing. So that was, in terms of pressure, it's just like controlling and my opponent's reserves. So if they have reserves, they can't go anywhere that is meaningful. And then no matter what, I was one turn away from just smacking him in the mouth. It's like, okay, I have a 10-inch move. I can fly over things. I can attack stuff. Then the fights first brick. It's like, okay, if you charge me, I have a little fights for 5-man fights first, which will kill a lot of stuff. And then on top of that, there's like Terminators and Hellbrutes and Morty nearby. So attacking me was also a pain in the ass, but I could attack you. And then drones and stuff are pretty tough for 90 points, so they have to commit quite a bit to kill them. So if you're crashing with Terminators and a drone or two, and then a Plague Marine squad and Morty and a Blight Haulers shooting your tanks and everything's tying you up, it's like, it's a lot to deal with.
Yeah, because if I was looking at that list, nothing is that scary, right? Like, nothing stands out to me that is that lethal. Like, the Blade Haulers, they're okay, but they're not super efficient. Mortarion, he's not great in combat. He doesn't actually go after incredibly big targets, and if he were to be put into something relatively scary, even with the Feel No Pain, he can take a little bit of damage, which can be frustrating. And even the 5-mans, yes, they are scary, but they don't have all the tools that you would see in a 10-man, or even a big brick of Death Shroud Terminators. Like, and there's something that I feel like I do often in GSC is like, everything is just average, but it is all just lethal enough that it could potentially kill what it needs to kill.
Yeah, I do think it's super interesting too. You know, you talked about building that pressure, and just kind of to reiterate some of like those main points I felt like that were super important. Where, you know, you were able to just take up a ton of space, right? There was nobody who could drop behind you, come in anywhere, super valuable. And, you know, you said another thing of, you weren't technically in their face. You had a ton of stuff that could punch them in the mouth the next turn, right? Just having those units close and ready to go is what's really applying a lot of that pressure. They can't really deal with it, but it's still there and is going to be a problem in the future.
So if we look at your first matchup, you played Ted. If I remember correctly, he's Bottom Table Heroes playing CSM. Is that correct?
Oh, that's my final opponent.
That was the final opponent.
That was the final
opponent.
The first opponent
was against Ted, playing Creations of Bile. I think he's a North Denver player.
Okay.
Solid player. Actually have never played against Bile before, just all kind of on paper and in theory. My list was exceptionally difficult for him because he had 2 10-man possessed bricks. He had a chosen brick, like 10-man chosen brick and a rhino. He had 2 more rhinos with a bunch of 5-man legionaries in it. But like possessed aren't that great into vehicles and Morty and things like that. And I went first in that matchup. And what like I was saying before, I just advanced, took the board, and applied pressure to his natural immediately. So like turn 2, I was attacking his natural and just poking the bear. And then I would have Terminators and second waves and a rapid ingress for when his possessed came in. So he actually ended up, we talked about at the end of the game, turn 3, he committed hard, like his whole army, and pretty much, and it's on Purge the Foe. I killed 8 units on the following turn. So if he held for one more turn, because he had the second bottom of turn advantage, he might have been able to keep it closer. But I kind of baited him, and I was like, okay, like, sorry, I guess it was he attacked me turn 2, actually not turn 3. I kind of I pressured the natural, I moved up, I had stuff ready, and then he crashed into me, and I was waiting for it. I was like, okay, I got Terminators behind, I'm gonna rapid ingress Typhus. He's gonna be able to charge into drones and a 5-man Plague Marine squad that just did some damage. If he takes the bait, I will pick up everything. So in turn 3, I killed 8 units. And you can guess how that goes after that when they don't have 21 units like I do. And everything with -1 save from Death Guard is so efficient in the Marines, you know. You have the Flamer, you know, the Plaguecaster alone picks up a bunch of guys. Mortarian's not bad. Even the Hellbrute was kicking butt. You know, this little bolter and everything. But, and then like Rhinos, and then so I saw a lot of vehicles this tournament that had like toughness 9 or toughness 8. And then with the contagion +1, the contagion and +1 AP, basically with the save contagion, I was hitting with blight haulers at wounding on 2s, rolling 1s near Morty. So it's like, here, it's AP 5, and your vehicles are dead. And now I can get inside the guys very easily. I don't have to charge them to get in there. It's like, okay, I pop the transport, and now you get flamed, you get shot, you get charged. And you know what? Worst case scenario, the blight hauler doesn't kill the target, just charges it. And it's tied up now, and I don't care if you kill it. So, yeah, it was a tough matchup for the Bile. And we talked at the end of the game, it was like Death Guard is one of the most difficult matchups for that list, but mine doesn't have the big fights first bricks that you're used to seeing. At the end of the game, he was like, this list is crazy. It's awesome. It's so aggressive. Because like, you know, typically when you think of Bile, they're in you or your face. I went at him. I'm like, we're going. Like, I'm coming at you. You can come at me. We'll meet in the middle. So, yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, really interesting
player,
first round matchup. And Bile, I really like it. I think it's got a lot of great tools. Like, it's got fall back in charge, it's got advance in charge, it's got the +1 toughness and +2 to your move, and +1 strength. Like, and then I think the last one was like +1 ballistic skill, which no one ever wants. But that detachment as a whole, it makes sense why it's not good in C, right? If we talk about the fight's first brick and honestly, probably the vehicle heavy, as you're saying. Like, I love fetid blow drones. I'm not a huge fan of the blight haulers. They're not necessarily my favorite. Yeah, they're not necessarily my favorite unit. But when you have a 90-point Rhino that is more lethal and it has a 5-up invul, it's pretty good.
And then he actually got the perfect roll. He got +2 move and +1 strength. So it was like the most ideal rolls he could have gotten into me too. Because that helped him reach some breaking points. He had extra movement. So that was in his favor at the end of the day, which was good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, next you went into Andre, a Denver 40K Fight Club member. You decided that going up to Wyohammer that you would also need to play someone from Denver, and you went into Andre. So why don't you tell us about that matchup?
So Andre and I actually went to lunch after round 1, and we were joking, like, if we played, how would we play into each other, you know? Because Andre and I for some reason, we play in a lot of tournaments. I think we played 4 times in RTTs and GTs now. And so he was very concerned about my list in particular, because I have mass MSU, 21 units. I have board control for days. So what I ended up doing, this is on Scorched Earth, I went first, which is the Doomsday scenario for into this matchup. So I took the -1 weapon skill, ballistic skill, contagion, and then I used Morty to extend the contagion every turn. So by the time it was turn 3, my entire army had 12-inch contagion, so he cannot be in rapid fire range and not get -2 to hit. So even then, it would kill the drones sometimes, but so first turn, everything advances like we talked about. I stage up to attack his natural. He moves up to, on his turn, he like cleanses on his natural, and he doesn't hold a no man's land objective. I think he holds a no man's land objective for 1 turn the entire game. Like, that's it. We pushed him hard. I bubble wrapped Morty so his scions couldn't drop in. I pushed him out so he had the 6-inch deep strike to even get anywhere meaningful. And so he'd do 6-inch deep strike, kill a drone, and then guess what? I would ingress Typhus or something like that. And then, okay, you killed a 90-point drone and you lose your scion unit with your character. And I don't know how many points it is, but it's a lot more than 90. So he dropped once and everything died. So it's like, okay, I don't care. Like, even if I didn't kill it, it's like, okay, the drone charges you. Cool. Now you're useless. So, and then he had 2 6-man units of Bulgrin. I guess we can go from the top what he had. He had 3 units of mortars, which was actually pretty good. He had 3 10-men of Scions, all with character, like 5 the command squads or whatever. He had 2 Toroxes with Catechins in it. He had 2 6-man Bulgrins, which slowed me down a little bit, but Morty has an ignore modifier aura, so all of my damage 3 and damage 4 and all his damage 2 just go straight through. And then I would just, like, the Hellbrute came in clutch here. Like, all right, Hellbrute, charge into Bulgrin. And the Bladecaster gives him -1 to wound. So now they're wounding me on fixes. And the Hellbrute's killing him left and right, you know? And then Morty, I just kind of sent. In turn 2, I was search and destroy deployment. And turn 2, Morty was in his deployment zone. Like, and I had him bubble wrapped so that he couldn't actually drop to shoot him. And it was like, because he put engineers out, so he blew up a rhino with the little remote mine things. And then he like kind of chained out to do cleanse in the middle. And I'm like, I'm not going to shoot him. I'm just going to have Morty. I'm going to use that movement to get into his lines and then sweep kill those guys. And now I have a super contagion aura. And so like I end up getting his mortars into that -1 ballistic skill in his deployment zone. And it was at the end of the day, it was a really bad matchup for him. If he played against traditional Death Guard with 6-man Death Shroud units, 10-man Plague Marines, he would kick the shit out of it, honestly. Like, those Scions are going to pick up any of those units without even trying. But I just had response teams for days. I had, like, my Rhino with a couple 5-man, with two 5-mans in there. I can send them different ways. I had a unit of Terminators and Deep Strike. And then on layout 1, I've been starting my Lord of Contagion type Terminator on the board. That's what I'm going to do from now on. I'm just advancing them up the board, and they just kind of stick with the Hellbrute and Morty and stuff, just extra pressure. But yeah, we kind of knew before the game. He's like, this is going to be real rough for me because your MSU is just too much. And everything in Vine kills him well. Like, his little Toroxes got insta-get by haulers. The guys inside just get slaughtered. And it's like, anytime he tried to move block me, I'm like, sweet, thanks for the movement. I will charge you. And now I'm screening you more. Yeah, that was the most skewed matchup of the weekend, unfortunately. For
the most favorable for you, at least.
Yeah,
by far.
that was that was a slaughter, unfortunately.
Well, I mean, I feel like, you know, we've established what it is, right? That's all you need to beat Bridgehead, you know? Just play Death Guard, take a ton of units, and you'll never have to worry about Bridgehead again. Easy fix, everyone.
If they get nerfed if they lose that +1 to wound, it's even harder, bro.
Oh man, yeah, we'll see. I'm hoping those leaks aren't spot on, because then that entirely different flavor of guard is just gonna be wiped off the face of the earth, basically. I don't know if anybody will play it, but we'll see what they do.
We will.
Yeah.
And then final match, right? So
Yep.
we're at.
Yeah,
So
going
this was
into
against Ryan W from Bottom Table Heroes. This was the hardest. This was a very hard game. This was a very hard game. We were playing Lynchpin, and he was playing what's it called?
Renegade Raiders, I think.
Detachment. What's the index detachment called?
he was playing
Is that
Packbound Zealots.
Packbound.
Yeah.
Packbound. So that's the one where, like, you have the 5-up lethals, 5-up sustain, yada yada. So he had the Abaddon Castle with Chosen. He had Triple Predator. He had a Hellbrute to give himself lethal and sustain every time he shoots. He had 2 instant obliterators. He had a Carnivore, War Dog Brigand, War Dog Huntsman. Then he had a 5-man Warp Talon unit. He had Cultists. So he just had all kinds of stuff. I actually haven't played into the Abaddon Castle before. The damage output is absurd. It's like, all right, I have 5-up lethal and sustain, full hit rerolls. He actually went first, which he didn't. I think if he goes, his army is definitely built to go second. So if he went second, I don't think I win this one. At least, who knows? I guess it's a different game in that case. He kind of pushed the board. It was another layout one mission. He pushed the board. He put in that little L nook. He had his huge castle. He had shooting lanes for days. And then my turn goes. I try to advance and move up. Both of us got dog shit second. I think the secondary score, like I got 26, he got 16. Like our secondaries were not great. They were just bad. Like first turn, I got 0. I think I got 0 on secondary. On he got like 2 points or something like that. And then, so I had sabotage. So I started sabotaging, and then I did not realize how powerful the Abaddon Castle indirect obliterators are, so he annihilated my sabotage unit. And then I killed his sabotage unit the following turn, so we just kind of didn't let each other score at all. There was a point, so I was trying to apply, I was like, how do I attack this castle, right? Like, they're talking about the pressure list. So I started to pressure him and push into him a bit. And unfortunately, it kind of like, a lot of stuff, my stuff bounced big time on this turn 2 push, where he overwatched with the Predator and I had Typhus ingress, and he was moving up to attack a War Dog and a Predator. I was on a flank. And he actually overwatched and killed the 3 Death Shroud with the Predator, and I was like, you gotta be kidding me. Like, he gave me 3 saves, and I had to make 3 ups. I failed all of them, so down to Typhus. Oof. On the other side of the map, I am attacking with, because he indirected a Rhino as well, I'm attacking him with a 5-end Plague with a Flamer and a Blight Hauler. And then, so I kill, he has a Cypher doing a little action, so he gets burned to death by the Flamer. You got to see how nasty the Plaguecaster is. And then I was like trying to do some damage, and like I got a Predator on that flank down to 4 wounds. You know, I whiffed the multi-melta and stuff. On the other side of the board, I killed the Carnivore, and then I was in combat with one of his Predators, and like Typhus is swinging. He has no bodyguards at this point, and he has 6 wounds left, I think, something like that, and I get 3 wounds through, and he needs 6s to save, and then he rolls 2 6s. That Predator lives. So I got 2 Predators that are really low. I lose a Death Shroud unit, and kind of like, okay, I kind of bounced. Like, this is not good. Like, I needed that Predator, at least the Predator with Typhus, to die. And then on the other side of the board, he ended up clearing the other side. You know, if I killed that Predator, it would have been huge momentum shift. Was I even like charged and stuff? But he actually used some Warp Talons to go kill that flank. That was just on his natural. And then they went back into Steep Strike. And then he kind of did an attack. It's Linchpin, so he ended up attacking my base like turn 4 with them. But thankfully, after I whiffed a bit, on his turn, he was leaving some of my vehicles down like 2 wounds, kind of like I was doing to him. So we kind of like, okay, I left you on 3, you left me on 2. All right, we're back in business. There was a critical point in the game. I decided it's time to send Morty. I think it was turn 3. Yeah, turn 3. Morty comes to the middle to deal with obliterators, things like that. I end up charging a 2-man obliterator unit with a Hellbrute and a Morty, and he spiked his 5-ups, and he had a single obliterator on 1 wound, and then used the stratagem. It was a Tzeentch one, so he got an obliterator back, and the one that was on 1 wound got to 4 wounds. So I was like, man, he spiked the crap out of his saves, and they're back. So they fell those back, and then Abaddon's coming up. Abaddon got overwatched by the Plaguecaster and lost all his chosen, so it's just Abaddon. He comes up, and he comes on the flank. I have a 5-man fights first unit next to Morty in cover, and there's Morty in the middle. And he takes a Predator and Obliterators and shoots him at the 5-man Plaguebrain unit. And I have the character left on 2 wounds, and he only fired 2 las cannons into Morty. I failed both saves, rerolled one of those, and then he rolled 7 for damage, and I think I took 4 wounds or something like that after the Feel No Pain. And then he charged with Abaddon. And Abaddon, I rerolled another save to make sure to basically guarantee the math I survive. And Morty's on 4 wounds, and Morty kills Abaddon. I think in that scenario, he should have just focused everything on Morty, just fucking make sure he dies. Because Morty ended up being a pain in the ass at that point. On the final round of the game, he drew Bring It Down, and I had him tied up. And it came down to, can you kill Morty to get 4 points, you know? We won by 7, so if he killed Morty, we still would have barely won. But that was a tough game. The pressure ended up working. Like I was saying, I was pressuring him every turn. And in turn 5, I had assets, and he had a few Warp Talons and Obliterators left. That was all he had of his 2 Obliterators left in his entire army when I started my turn on turn 5. And I still had Typhus, who got on his home base. I had 2 more Blight Haulers. I had Morty left. I had another 5-man Marine squad. I had another Rhino. And then I had another Terminator unit, which actually Overwatch killed on turn 5 just to like try to stop me from holding the objective. And then I had still the 2 wound foul Blight spawn. So I still had a lot of, even though he was killing me like crazy, I still had a lot of assets, which is crazy, because the damage output, even in Overwatch from that detachment, is ludicrous. Well, Abaddon's alive at least. And then, yeah, we talked at the end of the game. Someone encouraged me he's going to make one change to his list and to get change the Carnivore to another Huntsman. It kind of fits his style better. He's more of a shooter kind of guy. So, yeah, that was a tough game. It was good for me to get that experience of attacking a very intricate castle with a pressure list. Because it's like, dude, there's so much there. Like, how the heck am I supposed to root him out of this thing, And he had a couple bike units to, like, flip objectives, So it's like, I have to pressure. Or he can just deny me a primary or turn or two, and if I just sit back, he's going to win. So that was a great game. Ryan's an awesome player, and he'll rule out Armo, I think.
Yeah, that sounds like a tough matchup. A couple rolls could have went a couple different ways, and who knows what could have happened. And insanely low secondary scores too.
Dude, our secondaries were trash. It was just like, oh man, we just did not each other so much. Like, I think 26 might be the lowest secondary score I've had in a long time, and he had 16. I was like, golly, bro, because he didn't have enough assets at the end, and like he would draw an action secondary, and it's like, well, I can't do this. I honestly thought he was using a CP for damage and stuff. I kind of thought, if, like you guys have talked about in previous videos, he probably should have been cycling an objective every turn, to be honest. And he only lost by 7, right? So if he got like 2 more secondaries, he could have scored. Who knows? Maybe it's a tie or he wins, right? So
it is definitely important, right? If we talk about secondary scoring, at the end of the day, I could have no units on the board. But if I max out my secondary scoring and primary scoring, I've won the game. So you don't really care at that time. So you are right, but it is hard to see in the moment, right? You see wanting to kill units or use your stratagems or whatever the case is, and it is very hard to like focus in and be like, actually, I just need to recycle this behind enemy lines because I've been screened out. I'm not scoring points here, but I have the opportunity to score points. If I get literally anything else, I'm going to go after that.
Like no prisoners or anything.
Yeah. Correct, exactly. Like some of these might just be good enough that if I just get rid of this right now, like I'm not going to be able to score it, and I would rather get points right now.
And kind of like what you said in one of your lists about the GSC is, with this Death Guard list of mine, everything besides Morty is an expendable. You can go to an action, I don't give a shit. Even Morty could, I guess, in some scenarios, but like he is like pressure man. When it's time to go, he goes. And it's like Morty's kind of a lot to deal with on his own. He is very tough. Toughest Primarch in the game, actually. So his damage output isn't what I'm looking for there. It's all the utility, and it's like, can you deal with Morty and a Terminator unit and 3 drones and Plague Marines and another Terminator unit? After the weekend, not many people. It was tough. It was tough for people.
Yeah, well, and I think one of the other great things about not only the list but the play style that you bring with it is the fact that with that many pieces, your ability to just ensure that certain things are just in the aura range, right? Even if you're sending forward a trash unit that can't really deal with what you are wanting to kill, it can at least go up there, get within the range. It doesn't hurt to lose it, but it's going to make sure that they're -1 to toughness on that Rhino or whatever it is to make sure your Blight Haulers are going to just make sure they clean it up.
Yeah, your AP5 Meltas from the side hurts quite a bit. Well, it's funny, actually. I'll talk about the Hellbrute for a second. I took it as kind of a joke. It's like, I want to take a Hellbrute. I think I'm going to take a Hellbrute every time in Death Guard now, because that thing is so tiny. The base was small, and I got layout 1 for all 3 games, and you can start him in that little corner spot, like by the L, and he can't be shot unless they're coming around the corner. And it's a great staging point for him, and something that a lot of people get wrong is vehicles can't heroic intervene unless it's a walker. So the Hellbrute can heroic intervene, and the Death Guard one does charge mortals. It also has a cheeky ability that if it hits a target, they're in my contagion until my next turn, which actually is kind of nice for like tag a vehicle from 12 inches, like 15 inches away, and now all my Meltas are AP5, and my Blight Haulers are moving on 2s instead of 3s and AP4, So, but the Hellbrute, like, I thought it was going to be bad. I mean, 130 points is still too much for that thing, but, It's tiny. It's annoying. It was cute. And honestly, like I was having a Hellbrute next to Morty, and it was near Morty and a Lord of Contagion unit, and there's like a Rhino behind that. So it's like, well, if you charge into this, you're gonna have to deal with two of them.
So as you build and get ready for Armo, so let's shift gears a little bit. Unfortunately, I won't be there, but you'll be there. Lane will be there, and I'll be checking in from overseas, watching the pairings come in and watch you guys do well. Are you planning if Death Guard is unchanged? Is that what you're potentially going to bring to Armo?
Yep. I gotta paint these 5 models, and then we can play it. Yeah, it's gonna be Death Guard Armo. If I get point drops, great. We'll add enhancements or whatever. But this list was so fun, and my opponents kind of thought it was this is weird. I like it, you know. So I think I'm just gonna run it because it was just super fun. So that was the most important part of the game, really. And after Armo's done, I am switching gears to Emperor's Children. Pretty much, I don't know how long I'll play them until. Maybe just be the whole rest of the year. Who knows? Yeah, it'll be getting reps with that. The codex should be in my hand this weekend, and then it'll just be, full speed ahead there. So
Yeah, and so we did talk about right now. We've confirmed you are bringing this to RMO. Are there any particular matchups you are not so fond of? I know you would play Bridgehead all 6 rounds if you could. But, that's probably not going to happen. Is there anything you're really wanting to avoid potentially with this list?
that Abaddon Castle, I would not, I don't think it's a favored matchup for me. I definitely have to play up for that one. I had to play up to I had to get very creative in order to pull a win out of that one. And then Ironstorm could be tricky, because they could pick up all my stuff pretty easily. And I guess I have the extra Blight Hauler, so I have to see how that goes. I don't think I could be as aggressive in an army like that. Chaos Knight. Actually, I don't like 13 dog spam doesn't bother my Death Guard as much, especially with all these units now. And then I hope they get nerfed, but I never ever want to play Ynnari in my life again. So, if I run into that, if they're unnerfed, I'll be like, we'll play a turn, see how it goes, and then might have to shake hands.
Yeah, we'll see if they get the beat stick here on Thursday, and hopefully at least a light touching of it, But that is very fair. Do you at least feel with this list you have a better chance potentially into Ynnari than your kind of classic PBC list?
Yes, I think I have a better chance because I have more units than they do. So when the dragons come kill a drone, sweet, you actually traded down to kill that drone. So I think Mass MSU has some play into Ynnari for sure. Can attack from more angles. They don't have that big 6-man Death Shroud unit or a big Death Watch Terminator unit they can just one shot with their firepower, Honestly, like that Death Guard's, my Death Guard's fast-ish for everything moves 10 inches, all the vehicles and stuff, but man, if you don't have super fast melee, it's gonna be real hard to play against those guys.
Yeah. Well, like you need advance and charge because you have to be able to get into certain things, or you have to have a 10 to 12 inch movement and be able to do this other stuff, because otherwise you are going to be at the mercy of whatever it is they want to do, and it's going to happen on your turn, their turn, doesn't matter. Yeah, that's absolutely fair. And unfortunately, Matt, you and I,
right now.
Yeah, I don't think enough people have played into it to know. But Matt, you've played into it. I've played into it, and we are fortunate enough to have a great Drakari player here who has now switched to Devoted to Ennead. His name is Nick. We've had him on before when we discussed Devoted to Ennead when it first came out, and we kind of talked about the absolute craziness of what that detachment can do. But I promise you, when you see it on the board and you realize all the ways it interacts with you, not only on their turn, but on your turn, it is mildly obnoxious. In the hands of a great player.
It's kind of almost like, yeah. It's almost like debilitating too, because you have to think about all this stuff they can do in your turn. You're like, this is my turn, bro. Like, leave, go away. So before I played with Nick, I've been studying. I knew his list beforehand. He's my teammate, I've been like studying Ynnari just because I'm like scared of him. And then like when you get to the game, it's almost like you get frozen. Like the clock will be your worst enemy because you realize they can do anything on your turn, and so you almost have to just like focus in, like, all right, I'm gonna stop one thing they can do, and then screw it, I just need to like play, you know, because if I think about everything they can do, I can just stare at the board for a couple minutes and like, oh no, the clock's going down, you know. And Nick was saying that as a lot of his opponents on clocks have basically timed out because it's overwhelming, right? It's like it's like you're used to playing Warhammer a certain way, like trading objectives and flipping objectives, killing on the objectives, right? All of that is off the table against Ynnari. Like if you kill them with shooting, they can stick it. If you kill anything in shooting, they can move at the end of your shooting phase, and they can take primary with that. So like typically Eldars, you know, other Eldar detachment, you can kill that unit on the objective, and guess what? They don't have it. In this one, they can have it still. You know, if you don't have something to charge them with, then they're going to stick you. Or in Nick's case, he has a big fights first brick that he moves, and the only thing you can do is charge it. And if you charge it, you die. So it's like, well, I get primary, and you can't stop it. And that is something that is, I do not have no idea how to combat that, to be honest with you, in its current state. So
yeah, we'll see. Right, Thursday we'll get the data slate hopefully, and I've heard rumors about changes. I've heard rumors from individuals that I trust that have told me that there is going to be some changes. But right now, with so little data, I don't know if we can expect anything significant before RMO, which is mildly concerning. Now, I will say it does have a relatively small player pool, and we don't have a large community, but the guys that I know who have been running it and potentially will run it at an RMO are some very, very good players, and an army like that in their hands is very scary.
let's hope we don't pair into them.
Yeah, I know. I'm very scared. I don't even have a rep. You know, I'm going in with no lube. You guys at least have seen it before, so I'm gonna get wrecked, and I have no idea what to do. So I hope I do not get those pairings.
Yeah, the problem is like that all shooting list that like yours. Yes, you have Bulgrain and stuff like that, but it just eats you alive. I'll be honest, if you can't interact with it in the combat phase, he's going to turn off your Overwatch. He's going to move at the end of the shooting phase. He's going to deny you primaries. You're not going to want to charge into him with anything. So every turn, he's either maxing primaries or denying you yours, or both, because he can do both. He can literally deny all your primaries with Warp Spiders or whatever else, and then he's maxing primaries.
The best people into them will be people that don't shoot at all. So like Legions of Excess, World Eaters, I think Emperor's Children, that will have great play into them as well. Fast melee, you know, that doesn't shoot much. Like you can't reactive move. You can't move at the end of my shooting phase if I don't kill anything in the shooting phase. So I'll just charge you. I'll move 16. I'll move.
I'm going to forgo all shooting. I'm just tank shocking. That's all we're doing. And I'm just going to hope I can track over some little elves. You know, we'll see how it goes. What could go wrong, you know?
Right.
It's called Fire Dragons. That's what can go wrong.
Yeah, that would
Don't
go
take any tanks.
horribly.
You know? Yeah. Green Tide. Perfect.
Alrighty. Any last questions for Matt here, Finn?
No, I think we're pretty much okay. I will leave with one thing because this Death Guard list has definitely inspired me. But do you have a pet unit that you're like with Death Guard, like you will always take, or you will always try to find a way to fit it in there? What is your favorite unit out of Death Guard?
Plaguecaster. This is my favorite unit for sure. And Morty. I don't think it doesn't matter how bad he is. I think I'm gonna take him every list now, just because he's too cool, man. But the Plaguecaster though is god tier, bro. Like I used to take 2 of them in the past.
Pretty good.
A lot of people are like, "What is that thing?" Like, what's this? Basically, a Lander or Demon Flamer, and it's gross.
Awesome. Well, I think that's all we got. Congratulations again, Matt, for winning that RTT, and we'll definitely see how you do it the next one. Probably, you know, get another dub. No big deal with the streak you've been on, but, you know, won't jinx it. But we'll see everybody next time. Thanks again for stopping by, and don't forget that victory isn't given, it's forged.